to the cloud. Okay, friends, welcome. Today's topic, it's the biggest stage with auction properties. So I want to give you an overview of what the foreclosure process is, because you've got to understand that in order for us to start talking about auctions. So in the United States, friends, there are two types of states, judicial and non-judicial, when it comes to the foreclosure process, okay? So, but let's backtrack a bit. So the foreclosure process occurs when the owner took a loan from the bank, and for whatever reason, the owner is unable to pay the mortgage, okay? So then the bank will come after the owner to reclaim the property, okay? So now in the United States, there are two types of states, judicial and non-judicial. So what is the difference, right? So Illinois happens to be a judicial state. So what that means is that the foreclosure process is governed or ruled by the court system. So what that means is that if an owner falls behind the mortgage, then the bank needs to file a lawsuit in the court system. Therefore, it can take up to 2 years for a bank in a judicial state to foreclose an owner, such as Illinois. Now, a non-judicial state, such as California and all the West Coast, are primarily non-judicial states. That means that the lender does not have to go through the court system to foreclose on the owner. Therefore, believe it or not, friends, an institution, a bank, can foreclose on an owner in about 2 months, as fast as 2 months in non-judicial states, okay? But Illinois is a judicial state, so banks have to follow court proceedings. Okay, so having said that, the foreclosure process in Illinois will take about 2 years, between 1.5 years to 2 years. It's gonna depend on the owner contesting the lawsuit. So step number one, the owner falls behind, and then after 30 to 90 days, then the bank will officially file a lawsuit against the owner in the court system. So that's the pre-foreclosure phase. And then time goes on, right? So the owner has the option to contest the lawsuit, okay? So they can contest it, and they have 120 days to redeem. It's called the retention period, to redeem the loan. So what that means is to come current with the loan or pay it off, okay? But if for whatever reason the owner is unable to come current with the loan, then what's going to happen is that the court is going to issue the auction date of that property. So that means that it will be official that the owner's property will be auctioned off at the judicial court in the county of where the property belongs to. And at that point, you as a member of ChicagoDealVault are going to know about those deals, okay? The ones that are going to the auction. But the key, friends, is that we are going to know about them in advance. So we want to filter the properties that are going to go for auction in the future at least 45 days before they go to the auction. Why 45 days? Because we need to have enough time to connect with the owner at that point, okay? At least 45 days before the property goes to auction. Why do we need 45 days? Well, because we're talking about 6 weeks. To get the deal financed through a hard money lender or a private money lender is going to take about 3 weeks, okay? 3 to 4 weeks. And then give and take about a week to get in touch with the owner and then negotiate the deal. And then another week for attorney review and inspection. So 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks is just to get in touch with the owner, go inside the property, negotiate the deal, have the attorney review the contract, and then do an inspection. Friends, an inspection is a must on every property that you get on the contract. You have to do an inspection, okay? And then, so that's taking up 2 to 3 weeks right off the bat. And then you need at least 3 to 4 weeks to get the deal funded from a hard money lender or a private money lender. So I'm using an asset-based lender to get the deal funded, okay? So it's gonna be a hard money lender or a private money lender. So this is very important, friends, because the other option that many investors take is to go and look for a conventional lender. That's not going to work, friends. I'm going to tell you an example of a conventional lender. So a conventional lender is, for instance, guarantee rate. It might be Bank of America, it might be Chase, it might be Homebridge. So conventional lenders are not the right lenders to buy a property that is going to go for auction. The reason why is because conventional lenders are going to require the property to be in livable condition and vacant, okay? Now, when you're dealing with properties that are going to go for auction, most of the time, those properties are going to be occupied and they may not be in livable condition. So what that means is that the property might be missing, for instance, the stove, the fridge, all the appliances, and therefore it's not going to be in livable condition, okay? So I want to emphasize that we need to use a hard money lender or a private money lender, okay? That they're gonna focus on the asset itself. And friends, in ChicagoDealVault, we're gonna give you over 4,000 private money lenders in the city where you're targeting to buy the property, okay? So that is huge. Not only that, friends, but we're gonna have a networking event coming up on Sunday, March 17. It's gonna be very powerful because we have identified several members of ChicagoDealVault who are private money lenders. So we're gonna bring them because we want you to network with private money lenders. So those are investors like yourself who wish to remain passive investors. So what that means is they just want to lend money, right? They might not want to be hands-on. They just want to lend money. Okay, so we're going to help you network and get to know private money lenders within ChicagoDealVault. Okay, and network. Not only that, obviously we're going to go over the private money lenders in the system. But that event is going to be coming up March 17. So make sure you mark your calendar and reserve that spot. We're going to do speed networking. That's going to be the topic of that day. So again, I just want to emphasize that you're going to need 3 to 4 weeks to fund the deal, and then about 2 weeks to get the property in the contract, do an inspection, and the attorney review. Okay, so therefore, we're going to be focusing on the properties that are going to go for auction in the future, filtering them by at least 4 to 6 weeks down the road, okay? So we have enough time, because let's assume that we find a property that is going to go for auction in about 2 weeks. We don't have enough time to fund the deal, okay? And we cannot stop the auction unless the owner files for bankruptcy. That's just a way to buy some time. But usually you do that when you're gonna do a short sale, okay? You need to negotiate the short sale with the bank, and therefore the owner has to file for bankruptcy, okay? So friends, let's focus on auction properties that are going to go for auction in 4 to 6 weeks. We're gonna go over that in the system. Now, why is this such an important lead pipe? Okay, I'm gonna tell you the reason. Because when we search some properties in the system shortly, we're going to focus on properties that have a lot of equity and that are going to go for auction in at least 45 days. So why are we focusing on properties that have high equity? The reason why, first of all, let me backtrack. What's high equity? Okay, so for those of you who are not 100% sure what we mean by that, I want to make sure that you fully understand what we mean by that. Not only that, but the reason why we have to target high equity properties. So an example of a high equity property, let's take John, right? So John, for instance, owns a property that is worth $100,000. After repair value is $100,000, okay? But John happens to owe only $50,000 on the loan, okay? But for whatever reason, he went through financial distress. He was unable to pay the mortgage, and therefore his property is going to get auctioned off, okay, at the judicial courthouse. So at that point, John is considered to have a property with high equity because he owes $50,000 to the bank, but he has another $50,000 in equity, right? So we want to target those properties. Now, why? Okay, the reason is because when the owner has tons of equity in the property, you as an investor are going to have more bargaining power, okay? So you're going to be able to negotiate a better deal. Not only that, but you're going to be able to pay at least 65 cents on the dollar, which is crucial to make the numbers work, okay? So that is why we're going to target high equity properties. And then the second secret, obviously, is that we're going to be filtering by properties that are going for auction in 35 to 45 days, at least down the road in the future, okay? Now, why is this such an important lead pipe? The reason why is because just think about this. Imagine somebody owns a property with tons of equity, and if they do nothing, guess what's going to happen in 45 days or 60 days, whenever the auction is? Well, let me tell you the bad news for the owner. Unfortunately, the owner is going to lose the property to the bank, okay, or to a third-party investor who buys the property at the auction. So not only will they lose the property, they're going to lose their equity. That 50,000 of the example is going to be gone, and then they're going to ruin the credit. So therefore, upcoming auctions is one of the most motivated sellers, okay, versus owners who are just in pre-foreclosure, okay? Because owners who are just in pre-foreclosure, that means that they just fell behind during the 30, 60, 90 days, and the bank filed a lawsuit against them. Those owners are still going to be in denial, okay? So they won't accept the fact that they are legally in foreclosure, okay? So they are hopeful they're going to be able to come current and be able to keep the property. Whereas upcoming auctions, friends, it's too late. They were not able to come current, and it's official. The court ordered the auction of the property. So they only have 30 to 45 days to pay off that loan, okay? And if they don't, then they're going to lose the property. Now, why should we take action at this point, friends? Why 30 to 45 days? Okay, let me tell you. Because if we do nothing for the upcoming auctions, what's going to happen, friends, is that eventually that property obviously is going to go for auction. So investors who go to the courthouse at the judicial auction are going to be bidding against each other. They're going to be obviously overpaying for the property, right? Because it's just an emotional bidding war. Not only that, but they're going to buy properties sight unseen, okay? And worst of all, they have to pay cash for them. So if you think about all those disadvantages, you do not want to be at the auction house, in the courthouse, okay? Especially if you're a newbie or investor, because a lot of people have lost a lot of money in the judicial courthouses, okay, bidding for properties. So please do not do that. Let's focus on awesome deals with tons of equity that are going to go for auction, because the advantage is, friends, when we intercept those properties before they go to the courthouse, are many advantages. Let me just mention some of them. Number one, and most important, you're going to be able to finance the deal with a private money lender or a hard money lender, okay, which is huge, right? Because you're going to be leveraging. You're going to put a little money down and then leveraging from the lender, right? So that's option number one. Option number two, or benefit, I would say, number two, is that you have zero competition. So you're not in a courtroom bidding against other investors. Therefore, you will not overpay for the property. Benefit number three is that you're going to be able to see the property from the inside, which is huge, right? You're never supposed to buy sight unseen, right? You've got to not only see the property from the inside, but unless you are an inspector, you've got to do an inspection, okay? Because in the inspection, you might find major issues, for instance, like a foundation issue or big expensive ticket items, right? Maybe a roof, mechanicals that are going to cost you maybe a significant amount of money that may kill the deal. So therefore, it's crucial for you to get inside the property. And when we target upcoming auctions, that's going to be the case. You're going to be able, I'm going to repeat the benefits. Get inside the property, do an inspection, have zero competition, be able to fund the deal through a hard money lender or private money lender, okay? And finally, you will not overpay for the property because you're not bidding against other investors, right? So you have zero competition. So the advantages are tremendous. So this is one of the best and my favorite lead pipes, upcoming auctions, okay? So not only are you going to benefit, but you will also help a distressed owner get out of that situation. How are you going to help them? Because in order for you to get the deal on the contract, you've got to pay the outstanding debt, which in the example that I gave about John, you're going to need to pay the $50,000 plus the bank will have late fees that you will also have to pay. So account for 10% on top of the outstanding balance. So if the outstanding balance is $50,000 out of 10%, so at least expect to pay $55,000. And then you're going to need to pay closing costs. Okay, so add another 3%. So we're talking about 8%. So to be on the safe side, add a 10%. So if the owner owes $50,000, add just 10%. So it's going to be $55,000 that you need to pay off. And then you're going to need to give the owner an incentive, right, to sell you the property, a relocation package. So you've got to help the owner settle somewhere else. So that's when you may pay maybe 55 plus 10,000, for instance. You may pay 65,000 for the property that could be worth 100,000. So the incentive that you're going to pay the owner or the relocation package, friends, that's going to be based on the condition of the property, right? So for instance, you cannot have, for instance, a set amount for relocation. Yeah, I'm going to pay you 10,000 on top of what you owe. No, friends. It has to be based on the condition of the property. So let's go back to the example that I told you. So if the property is worth 100,000 and he owes 50,000 plus fees, you're going to need to pay 55,000. But if the property is in great shape that you can just turn around, right? Maybe do a cosmetic rehab, spend less than $5,000. So there you can afford to pay a little bit more. So even if you get the property for 75,000, right? You're going to be able to turn that around easily, either do a wholesale, buy and hold, or a fix and flip, right? If the property doesn't need much. So in that case, you may afford to pay a little bit more to the owner to settle somewhere else. So instead of paying 10,000, you might be able to pay 15,000. So instead of paying, okay, on top of the 55, let's say we add that 15,000. So that'll be 70,000. Still, friends, you're paying 70 cents on the dollar, right? So when you buy that property, you're making money right off the bat. You have a 30% equity, which is huge, okay? So keep in mind, it has to be a win-win, okay? It's not a win-lose, win for you and lose for the owner. No, you've got to be able to negotiate a win-win strategy, okay? So that win-win strategy is going to be based, again, on the condition of the property from the inside and the outside. Because let me give you the other example. If the property is beat up and needs a lot of work, then you can only afford to pay maybe 5,000 or 7,000, less than 10,000, friends, if the property needs a lot of work, right? And even then, if it needs like over 50,000 in rehab, then the deal doesn't make sense, right? Even if you were to pay the 55,000, but if you need to put 50,000 on the property, you're going to be in the hole 5,000, right? Because the ARV is 100,000. So there's no way you're going to recoup your investment. So you've got to see the property from the inside and do an inspection. And then the relocation package or incentive you give to the owner is going to be based on that condition. Okay, friends? So having said that, let's just go find some awesome upcoming auction deals, okay, in multiple locations in your local market in ChicagoDealVault. So I'm gonna log on to the system. Okay. Okay, so once we log on to ChicagoDealVault, friends, we're gonna go on their off-market properties, and then we're going to click on upcoming auctions, okay? And in here, we're gonna select, we can select some counties, cities, some zip codes, but again, we have two secrets when you do the filtering here. So just, I'm gonna select few counties. I'm gonna select DuPage, Lake County, for as an example, and then remember, we're going to be targeting properties with high equity. So what I like to see in high equity, over 50%, that's high equity. So here's where you're going to have the most leverage, okay? But please do not ignore the 0 to 50% equity, because you might find some awesome deals on the 0 to 50% equity, because imagine an owner may have 40% equity, right? So he owes 50,000 and the property is worth 90,000. But guess what? The property may not need much work. So that would still be a great deal. So please also be considerate of doing less than 50%. So you can use these two filters, but to begin with, we're just gonna be very aggressive. So we want properties with equity over 50%. So remember, how do we compute the equity, right? So the way we're gonna compute the equity is based on the ARV of the property minus the outstanding loan balance, okay? And then the second thing that we need to use is the auction date. So here, we need to put a date in the future, okay? And this date has to be, remember, we need at least 6 weeks. 3 to 4 for funding, plus 2 weeks for getting the property in the contract and inspected. So at least 6 weeks. So what I like to do is, I'm gonna go, so today is the 6th of March. So I'm gonna go 6 weeks down the line. So 6 weeks, that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. It's gonna put me at here, 6. So April 10th is 6 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, no, it's supposed to be April 17. That's 6 weeks from today, okay? At least. So we want to see properties that are going to go for auction no sooner than April 17. So that's 6 weeks down the road. Why? Because if we get the property under contract, we need to get it inspected and then funded. So we need to get all these done before the property goes for auction, right? And then how far in the future, that we don't have a limit, okay? So you can go as far as, so April, I'm gonna go April, May, June, July, for instance. Here, we don't have a limit, okay? So even I'm gonna go August 31st. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna click on search, okay? So we found 14 properties, friends, that are going to go for auction in at least 6 weeks, okay? So these are great leads right now that we should look into in these two counties, okay? So I did DuPage and Lake. So, and not only that, but they have a lot of equity. So we're gonna select one of them. Okay, so what's a great area? Woodridge, that's a great area. Okay, now let's find out why is this a great deal. So first of all, here we're gonna show you when the property is going to go for auction, okay? So that is April 18. So we have about 6 weeks from today. That's good, okay? So now the second thing that we're gonna check is what's the outstanding balance right now? It's 28,000. What's the ARV on the property? The ARV on the property, this is could be about 200,000, right? So he's got tons of equity in a 1,300 square feet property. And then something that we must pay attention to is the liens. So here, let me show you. BMO is the plaintiff. So this is the bank that is suing the owner for the outstanding balance of $28,000. However, look at this. There's a second lien, okay? And that lien is by Bank One for $128,000, friends. Okay, so you need to add this up. 128 plus 28, that's like 160,000. Okay, so in this property, it's not a good deal because you don't have enough room to do anything. So what this means is that this owner has two liens or two mortgages. So one must be a HELOC, home equity line of credit, and the other one might be the first lien, okay, or the main loan on the property. So this property, it's not a good deal, okay, friends? So that's one of the first things that you need to do. So I'm gonna go to Villa Park. So these are all great areas, Elmhurst. So the first thing that we're gonna do, it's okay, we have enough time, right? April 30th, so that's about 7 weeks from today. Let's check the liens. Oh my goodness, here we have a lot of liens, but let's look into more detail, right, as to how much these liens are for. So here I can see a lien for, okay, so let's go in order. So we have a lien, Salt Creek, for $130. Salt Creek for $1,332. So that's not a big deal. Another one from Villa Park for $835. That's not a big deal. Another one from Villa Park for $1,000. And then another one from the state of Illinois for $7,800. And then, so we have about, I would say about 10,000 in liens, plus the primary loan. So that's 76 plus 10,000. So that's 86,000, right? But how much is the property worth? Whoa, the property is worth over 200,000. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Villa Park, okay? Single family home. And this is going for auction on April 30th. So indeed, this is a great deal because the estimated equity is over 150,000 here, right here, 150,000 at least, right? So this is a good deal, for instance. Okay, so what we need to do at this point is we need to reach out to the owner, okay, Mohammed, right there, okay? So why is this important? Because he's got a lot of equity. Even with those smaller liens, those are primarily from the village, from of Villa Park, and then from the state of Illinois. So it might be property taxes, right? Property tax liens that property has been assessed. So here, what we need to do is we have 3 options to get in touch with the owner. Either we can call him, so we have few numbers to call, right? Several mobile numbers. In fact, friends, we're gonna do something cool. I'm gonna try to see if I can get a hold of Mohammed. But before I do that, I wanna pull some comps on this property, okay? So we believe this property is worth between 220 to 250. I'm just gonna run some comps to get a better feeling of what exactly the ARV is gonna be, okay? So we're gonna be looking for properties that are sold in Villa Park that are 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna scroll down and then I see comps. So we've defaulted 3 bedroom, 2 bath. So all I'm gonna do is click on search. So what this is going to do is it's going to look for all the properties that sold in the last 6 months within a 1-mile radius. Boom. So we have 3 properties that sold within the last 6 months within a 1-mile radius, and then we're gonna plot them on the map. So they're very, very close proximity-wise, right? So let me just tell you that appraisers typically will not go beyond 6 months. So they wanna see comps of in the last 6 months, okay? unless it's a rare layout, a rare property, then they're going to go beyond 6 months. But for the most part, the rule of thumb is that you want to pull comps no more than 6 months old, okay? And then within a 1 mile radius. So this depends on the suburb, the neighborhood. This could be even less, right, than a mile or more than a mile. So for now, we're defaulting this to a mile. So we have 3 properties, and look at this. These properties sold in 13 days, 8 days, 33 days, okay? And they listed for $250, and they sold for $240. $299, it sold for $294. Listed for $324, sold for $320. So what I'm seeing right here is that Villa Park is a hot area, right? Not only that, but the owners are getting pretty much almost asking price, and they're selling the properties fairly quick, within a month, right? So we're gonna average those properties, and we're gonna give you the ARV. So this property could potentially be worth $284, but friends, we have to go inside the property, right? Just to validate this number, because if it needs like a ton of work, obviously that needs to be taken into account. How much we're gonna be able to pay for the property. But as you can see, if we do the math, the owner owes very little money, even with all these liens. These are very minor liens that amount to probably a little bit less, or about $10,000. So we have a lot of room, right, for negotiation. So this property makes sense. And then what I like to do is get in touch with the owner, because I can guarantee that whatever approach we do for buy and hold, meaning the rental or the fix and flip, is going to make sense. Because let me just run the numbers. So we know, let's do the buy and hold. This property in Villa Park, we're going to be collecting about $1,750, so the rent is very good. Utilities are going to be paid by the owner. We're going to put in, we're going to be conservative, about $100 for maintenance on a monthly basis. Management fee, I think we can manage this property. Insurance, let's do $90. Taxes. So to find out what the taxes are, I'm going to click on the owner loan tab, and then scroll all the way to the bottom. So we're going to give you the taxes on a yearly basis. So we just need to divide that by 12, okay? And then we're gonna put in some expenses for the rehab. So right here, we see the transaction history and the loan history. Okay, so the taxes are $5,000, okay? And then as you can see, there was a transaction done in 2013. Price, 141, the loan is 112. The owner is Mohammed. Okay, so let me just go back to the property. So indeed, look at the original loan, 112, which is exactly what they got, 112,800. But he purchased the property for 140. So he got a good deal, but it was back in 2013, right? That was one of the best times to buy property. So that is why he bought it for very low. So just think about these, friends. In 2013, he paid 141. This property today could be worth at least 250,000. So it appreciated about 100,000 in about 5 years, okay? So you see the power, I mean, the potential of this property? It's huge. This property has huge potential, friends. So, but just to show you, I'm gonna quickly do the buy and hold analysis. So at this point, we're gonna divide 5,000 by 12. So 5,000 by 12 to get the monthly tax expense, 416. So 416, so they're kind of high, but we'll just go with it. Now, acquisition cost. How much are we gonna pay for the property? So again, we said that we need to pay at least 76 plus 10%, so that's 84. Let's say 85 plus 10,000 in liens, that's 95. So we pay 95, but we need to give the owner an incentive, right, to buy the property. So 95. What about, friends, if we were to give him 140, which is what the owner paid back in 2013? So just for sakes, I'm going to put 140,000, okay, that we're gonna pay. 1, 2, 3. Now the next question is the rehab amount. So here, if we scroll up, we're going to give you a range of the rehab amount. This is going to be based on the square footage and number of rooms and baths in the property. So an 1,800 square feet property with 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, it's going to cost you at least to do a live rehab $20,000, but it could go higher than $30,000. Since we're going to do a buy and hold, I'm going to do the $21,000, okay, just to be on the safe side. And then I'm going to click on calculate because I want to see the cash flow on this property. So we're going to be cash flowing $544. So indeed, this makes sense, right? So we want to target properties that are going to cash flow at least $400 a month. So this for sure works. Paying $140 for this property, which is what the owner paid back in 2013. And then assuming that we're going to do a live rehab for $20,000. Now let me quickly do a fix and flip. So we know we can sell this property for $284, okay, based on the comps that we pulled. And then the rehab is not going to be $20,000 because we're going to do a higher end rehab for a fix and flip. So we're going to spend at least $30,000. I'm going to go with $35,000, right? I always like to be conservative for the oops factor, right? And then it's going to be in the holding time for 4 months. So here I account for at least 1 month to 2 months just for the rehab, and then about 2 months for market time. So 4 months, but we're going to be very conservative. We're going to do 5 months, okay? And then the sales cost is just a percentage of the ARV. And then we need to pay a commission to the broker that is going to help us sell the property, so 5%. And then utilities, we're going to pay for gas, electric, water when we fix the property, right? So that might be $150 at least for a 3-bedroom house. Insurance, we said, is going to be $90. Taxes, it's going to be $416. And then we're going to be paying for the property $140,000. Okay, 140. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now let's calculate the net profit on the fix and flip. So we could potentially make 92,000. So this is, friends, a great deal because whatever strategy you take, either you buy and hold or fix and flip, we're going to be making great money. 90,000 on the fix and flip and about over 500 on the buy and hold. So these are the type of deals that successful investors take on, right? So they make sure that they have a buy and hold and a fix and flip successful exit strategy. Consequently, if you want to wholesale the property, it's going to be a piece of cake, okay? So if we want to get this on the contract and then do nothing, right? We're not going to buy and hold. We're not going to fix and flip. We can easily wholesale this property. And guess what? We're not going to wholesale it for a finder's fee of $5,000 to $10,000. We're going to wholesale these for $20,000, $30,000, $35,000 at least, right? And then do nothing on the property. All we need to do is get it on the contract, and then we can turn around and then put it on the MLS to wholesale the property. And then we will also market this to the cash buyers and also through ChicagoDealVault network. So this is indeed an awesome deal, friends. Whatever you decide to do with this one, I think we have to get this property on the contract. Now, something that we have to check out that is important. So far, I really love this property, okay, in Villa Park. But let me show you 2 things that we just need to make sure that we understand on this property. So this property, I'm going to zoom in because remember, real estate, what's important, friends, is location, 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 right? So I'm going to zoom in because every single neighborhood has pockets, not only on the city particularly, but also in the suburbs. So through ChicagoDealVault, we're going to show you any given pocket, right? If it's good or bad or where it sits. So I'm going to zoom in just to find out the cross streets. Okay, so north we have, let me see, it's St. Charles Road. And then here we have Westmore, okay? And then I see, friends, if I zoom in, what is this? Illinois Prairie Path. So that's not a big deal. I thought it was a train track. So what we have is, if you scroll down, we have the Market Overview tab. So this is the integration with Trulia. This tool is extremely powerful, friends. I use it on we use it on every single property. So because this map is real time, so it shows you Villa Park. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in, Villa Park. Okay, so in Villa Park, so when I hover over, so this is St. Charles Road. I'm gonna zoom in. This is St. Charles Road. Okay, so now the other intersection is Westmore. Okay, right here. So this is Westmore right here, and then north is St. Charles. So this property sits somewhere over here. So the median listing price is 240, friends. Do you see that? 240. Okay, so I was able to identify the location, the pocket of this property, and then the houses there are selling for 240 or so. That's the median listing price. But based on our ARV, it could go as high as 280. So friends, if the median sales price in this pocket is 240 and we can get this property on the contract for 140, you have a spread of about $100,000. So believe me, this property is a home run deal. Why? Because even if the rehab takes 30,000, 35,000, we're still going to be making a ton of money, at least 75,000 on the fix and flip. So this is a great way to just identify that the property is in a good pocket. I believe there's a comment on the line. It says this house is spending. Sucks. Okay, so Janice, can you tell me a little bit more as to what you said for pending? Okay, so Janice said that the property is pending. So what that makes me think is that this property might be on the MLS and this already on the contract. Okay, so we're just gonna double check that in a second. Great point, Janice. We're gonna show how to do that. Okay, but what I wanted to show you in this map is that if I go over, this is another suburb. If I go on the right-hand side, this is what I wanted to show you. So the yellow shows the median listing price of 550. If I hover over to the bottom in the orange, it went up to 604. So you see the pockets, even in the suburbs, friends, you have pockets. So that is why once you find the property, all you need to do, look at the map, look at the location, find out the address, and then scroll down to the market overview, right? And then you're gonna find exactly the same house on the street, on the streets up above, so that you can see what pockets that property falls under. Because friends, once you go east or west or north or south of a street, the prices change drastically. Let me give an example. So here, the properties are worth $649. When you go to the west, about maybe a block, then they go down to less than 50%. You see how crucial for you is to understand the pockets, and you don't need to do driving for dollars, because friends, if you do drive for dollars, guess what? You will not know the difference between the median listing price of 460 and 649. You will not notice that. You're just gonna see pretty houses, but you're not going to know the difference. So therefore, I want to stress the usage of this interactive map, okay? So let me go back to the comment from Janice. Yes, it's on the contract, but thank you for all of the info. Okay, so we're gonna do further research on this property because I really like it. It's a home run deal. So what I will do is I'm gonna copy paste the address, and then I will put it on the power search, or I can do it on the MLS because I wanna see if the property is listed on the MLS. Okay, so it is, let me select it from the drop down. Villa Park. Okay, so we're using the power search, friends. So what the power search does is it's gonna find the property, right? on any stage in the foreclosure process. And then indeed, so this property, look at this. So this is the record. We were looking at it in the foreclosure, in the upcoming auction. But when I did the power search right here, it opened up this tab to the right. So it's indeed on the MLS, and then you're right, Janice, it's contingent. So great thinking, Janice. Thank you for verifying the status of the property. Obviously, it's under contract, and it was listed for 169, friends. So this is a home run deal. We needed to buy this for 140, okay? So let's look at the condition of the property. So it doesn't have pictures from the inside, but let me just quickly look at the details. So when we go to the details, this is where we're gonna see the information about the broker and the description. You see 40% price drop, 40,000. Of course, it makes sense. This property is worth way over 200,000. Come see and take ownership of this handyman. So this is a property that requires work, right? Does need work, and overall TLC, 2-story home with 3 bedrooms, 2 full baths, finished basement, 2-car garage, looking for cash buyers. Buyers to assume all code enforcement compliance issues, no survey provided, taxes prorated at 100%, property sold as is. Okay, so here, this is a perfect example. So now, unfortunately, this property is gone, right? It's under contract. But what's important, friends, is for us to go through the exercise, right, of not only finding a great property, but also doing the research and then getting in touch with the owner. But moving forward, as a second check, we're gonna need to do the power search on the address just to make sure once we found a great deal, let's do a power search on the address, because this property got listed on the MLS. So now the question is, how did it get listed on the MLS and why? Okay, so there's a comment on the line. Let me see. The Zestimate is 282, so this program is right on the money. Yeah, so Zestimate, okay, says 282. Okay, so that's fine. So we look at the Zestimate, but we don't go by the Zestimate, right? So we like to pull the comps from the MLS, just like we did right here, right? And then not only that, but we're gonna see we can see the comps right here. So view details, we can see our own comps, and then we decide, right, if the property is a comp or not. So we're looking at comps. Obviously, these comps are fully rehab. So yeah, Zestimate, it just gives you a ballpark, but we like to do you have to, friends, do your own CMA by pulling the comps under the comps tab, okay? So the question is, again, why was the property listed in the MLS? So the reason is that the owner wants to pay off the outstanding balance. So he needs at least 85,000, right, to get off the hook. And he needs to get that money very fast before April 30th, because on April 30th, if that property doesn't get sold, guess what? The owner is going to lose the property, and then it's going to go back to the bank, okay? And then at that point, everyone loses. So what the owner did was to list the property with a broker. And let me tell you, only 5% of properties in foreclosure get listed on the MLS, which is great, right? Because most of them are not going to be listed on the MLS. So if it's not listed on the MLS, we have the option to connect with the owner right away, okay? There's another comment on the line. Did you offer a relocation package? So the question is, well, in this property, what I would do if it was not listed in the MLS, we did the analysis, right? Even we looked at the history, how much the owner paid, Mohammed paid back in 2013. So back in 2013, he paid 141. Even if we were to pay 141, we're going to be cash flowing over 500 a month, and we're going to be making a fix and flip profit of at least 90,000. So it was a no-brainer to pay him $140,000. If we pay him $140,000, guess how much he's going to be walking away with? Let me do the math. So $140,000 minus, he owes 76 plus 10%. So he owes 84 minus all the outstanding liens of about 11,000. He will walk away with 45 grand in his pocket. I mean, it'll be a no-brainer, friends, for the owner, especially that he needs to close on the deal before April 30th. And guess what, friends? If we get this property in the contract for 140,000, we're going to be able to fund this like not tomorrow, because we're going to be paying like 50 cents on the dollar, because this property could be worth 280, between 250 to 280. So we're paying 50 to 60 cents on the dollar. So any private money lender, any hard money lender is going to give you the loan like not tomorrow. I mean, if you have this property in the contract, you can come to us. We will find you a private money lender, okay? It's going to be a no-brainer. So that was a great exercise. Let's look at another property, okay? Upcoming auction. So Lake Villa, it's a great area. And then don't take my word for it. Remember, if you have no clue about what Lake Villa is all about, remember to use the area reports, okay? So Lake Villa, because this is going to take you 2 minutes, okay? So for those of you who are not familiar with Lake Villa, the first thing that you need to know, whether it's a great area, how much you should be paying for a single family home, that's all you need to know. And what are the rents like, and how many days or months the properties stay on the market, right? When you buy a property in Lake Villa. So first of all, let me just show you that in 2 minutes, okay? For those of you who have no clue about Lake Villa. So this is the location of Lake Villa. So the livability score is 79. Friends, remember, I told you, anything over 75 livability score is great. It's a green light, okay? As you can see, it's amenities, everything is great. Cost of living D-, that means that some properties might be expensive, but other than that, it's awesome, right? The crime is low, below the red line. This is the heat map for the crime, which is clean. And then the schools are black markers, are good. Otherwise, they would be in yellow or red. Look at the household income. It's 82,000 versus 57 in Illinois. It's great. Population growth. Check this out, friends. 51% population growth in Lake Villa. So it's an upcoming area. People are moving into the area. So this is great. So now let's look at the industry. This tells you about the employers, right? So as you can see, manufacturing has 20%. So there are a lot of factories. And then education, healthcare. So a lot of hospitals, 20%, okay? But let's go down to the numbers. Here, vacancy housing units, only 4%. That's awesome, friends. Very little vacancy. This is a B area, so bread and butter. And then we recommend cash flow. Why? Because the rents are high. Now, something that is really important to know, friends, it's the sales market analysis. So we're looking at a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family home. So the question that you should ask yourself is, how much should I pay for a single-family home? So what is the price that I need to pay? So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to show you. Here, this report is divided into 3. This is multi-unit, 2 to 4. Attached refers to duplexes, townhomes, apartments, and detached is single-family homes. So I'm going to scroll down to where it says sweet spot to buy. So you've got to buy a single-family home in Lake Villa for less than $208. We're going to be paying $140 for that property. So it's a good deal. Even, friends, if you had seen this property in the MLS for $169, it still fits the criteria that you've got to pay less than $208. And then the drawback, I see that they stayed in the market for a long time. I mean, not a long time, but about over 3 months, which it's a little bit above the average, okay? So let's look at the rental market. So I'm gonna scroll down, the same analysis in the last 12 months, and look at the rents. The rents are fairly high, right? So in here, the average or the median is $1,400 for a 3-bedroom. So we're gonna give you the conclusion. Rents are high and then take to stay in the market for a month and a half. That is why we recommend the buy and hold approach on this area. So in just 2 minutes, friends, I show you how cool Lake Villa is, right? So that makes me take the other example of another property in Lake Villa. So let's just quickly take a look at another great deal, right, in Lake Villa. So first of all, when is the auction? May. So we have almost 2 months, actually 2 months from today. So you have plenty of time. Now let's see the liens, okay? Whoa, we have quite a few liens. So let me quickly add them up. So here we have $171. That's not a big deal. Then we have $252. That's not a big deal. And then this one is for $38,000. So this is about $40,000 in liens. 40,000 plus 110 for the outstanding balance. That's 150,000. Okay. Now, how much is this property worth? It's a 4-bedroom, 1.5 bath. This property is worth only 178 to 200,000. So, and then we have to pay off 150,000. So friends, you are going to be tight on the numbers. If you were to pay 150,000 just to satisfy the creditors, plus what are we going to pay the owner, right? We don't have enough room. If this property is worth only less than 200,000, we don't have enough room, right? So this is, to me, it's just the numbers are not going to work just by looking at it. So yeah, I'm going to pass on this one, friends. And then something that catches my eye is that this property is very close to like a river or a lake. So the first thing that I want to check is whether this property is in a floodplain zone, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy paste the address, and then I'm going to scroll down, and then I'm going to click on flooding. So right here, I'm going to show you where flooding is. It's next to market trend flooding. So we're going to take you here. You're going to paste the address and then click on go. Okay, so the property is green. So the property is green, that means that it's not in a floodplain. Okay, so if I zoom in, yeah, it's not in a floodplain, okay? But it's it's just a standard practice. Okay, we've got to check because it's very close to like a river or like a lake. Okay, so but the numbers are not going to work because of these liens. So then we move on to the next one, right? So we go to the next Lake Villa. So this is a property that is going for auction again sometime in May. Let's look at this lien. So there's a lien for 275,000 on top of 110. So that is over 300,000. This property does not support that. So friends, this is something important that I want to bring up to your attention. Okay, so look how much money the owner owes. 110 is owed to Citizens Bank, and then he also owes to ABN AMRO 275,000. So if you add these up, that's 275, 385,000. The property for sure is not worth more than 300,000. So in this case, the owner is underwater. So what does that mean? That's what happened to most investors back in 2008. They owe more than what the property is worth. So what are the options in this case? Well, let me tell you right off the bat, we will not pursue these properties that are underwater, okay? We just like to focus on properties that have a lot of equity. But there are two options, friends, for these type of properties, okay? So I'm gonna quickly explain what the options are when the property is underwater. So question number one is, obviously, we need to get in touch with David, right? And Janice. Those are the owners. And then we need to find out whether they want to stay in the property or they want to sell the property, okay? That's question number one, okay? In order for us to help them. If they're gonna stay in the property, if they really like this house and they want to stay in the house, the only option that they may have is to do a loan modification, okay? But this is gonna be kind of tough because they're way too much on the water. So they need to work out a payment plan, payment arrangement, loan modification with two banks, Citizen banks, and then ABN AMRO. Okay, so that is just gonna be a challenge to do a loan modification. And then if the owner does not want to stay in the property and he's underwater, the second option that he has or they have is to do a short sale, okay? So what does that mean? So that means that the bank will need to authorize the sale of the property at a lower price than what the outstanding balance is. So if the outstanding balance is 100 or 300,000 in this case, over 300,000 for both loans, both banks will need to take a hit, right? Like a loss. So if both banks are willing to write off the loss and let the owner sell the property, that's called a short sale, but the bank needs to approve the short sale, okay? But let me tell you the trick. This property is already scheduled by the court system to go for auction in May 14. So if the owner wants to sell the property and it's underwater, then they need to negotiate a short sale with both banks. And in order for that to happen, you're gonna need more than 8 weeks to do that. A short sale can take up to like 6, 7, 8 months. Short sales are just take forever, right? Because there's a lot of bureaucracy, especially in these large banks. So in order for the owner to stop the auction, the owner will need to file for bankruptcy, okay? That will automatically stop the auction date and is gonna help the owner buy more time to negotiate a short sale with the bank. Now, let me tell you something. They can file for bankruptcy at the courthouse, but they don't need to follow through the proceedings, right? So this is just an immediate way to stop the auction. But the owner obviously doesn't need to actually follow through the process and then have a bankruptcy in their credit report. No, this will just temporarily stop the auction, and then the owner doesn't need to show up at court, right, for the bankruptcy proceedings, and then the court is gonna throw the case out the window. It's gonna dismiss the case for bankruptcy, but at least that bought the owner time to stop the auction and try to negotiate a short sale, okay? So, but friends, that is a more complicated scenario. So I recommend to stay away from properties that are underwater because it's more complicated. You need to work with an attorney that specializes in short sales and also a real estate broker that specializes in short sales. Why? Because the property needs to be listed in the MLS. That's a requirement by the bank if they approve the short sale. So if you're interested in taking this approach, let us know. And we do have brokers that specialize in short sales and also attorneys that specialize in short sales. But friends, there are so many great deals out there with tons of equity. So why bother to focus on properties that are underwater? So we don't do that, we ignore them. So I just wanted to give you the explanation why we ignore them and that it doesn't make sense to follow up on those. Now, there's another question. Just following up to see if the technical team fixed. Okay, so great question, John MacArthur. So we're releasing new enhancement on when you make an offer for the MLS 7.0 that are gonna be released this week. So by Friday, we're gonna have new enhancements on the 7.0 contract, and that's thanks to your feedback. Thank you, John. Thank you, Robert and Bernadette. We've made a lot of enhancements thanks to your feedback. So John, thank you for the follow-up. That's gonna happen end of the week. Okay, friends. So let's just quickly summarize what we talked about today, okay? Because it's very crucial for you to understand what we talked about today. Okay, so what we talked about today is upcoming auctions, right? So this is gonna be right here, upcoming auctions. So the reason why you should focus in upcoming auctions is because of the following benefits. You're gonna know of the properties, every single property that is going for auction, but remember, you need to filter the ones that are going to go for auction in at least 6 weeks from today and onwards. Why? Because you need 6 weeks to get the property in the contract, have an inspection, have the attorney review the contract, and fund the deal with an asset-based lender, hard money lender or private money lender, right? So that's number one. Now, why? Why do you need to do that? What are the benefits? Well, the huge benefits are that the owner is going to be extremely motivated to take action to work with you, because in 45 days or 60 days, they're going to lose the home, the equity, and ruin their credit. You have no competition. Other investors are not part of this, so you have no competition. You get to see the property from the inside and inspect the property. You get to fund the property. So those are 4 major benefits that you should take advantage of focusing on upcoming auctions, okay? Whereas pre-foreclosures, remember, in Illinois is a judicial state. So that means that the foreclosure process has to go through the court system. Therefore, it's going to take up to 2 years. So when you go for pre-foreclosures, even with high equity, if the owner just went into pre-foreclosure, most likely they're going to be in denial. They're going to be hopeful they can come current with the loan, right? Even though they might not. But the likelihood of them working with you, it's a little bit harder. It's not impossible, but it's a little bit harder, okay? So I was just comparing the pre-foreclosure motivation level compared to the upcoming auction motivation level, right? From the seller or from the owner. So also, once you are filtering the upcoming auctions, remember, you've got to focus on high equity properties and then the future filtering for the auction date. So once you have that, friends, make sure that you do the buy and hold and fix and flip analysis successfully, right? You've got to make money on a monthly basis should you decide to buy and hold, or you should make a decent net profit if you decide to fix and flip the property, okay? So make sure you do your due diligence. And something crucial, friends, make sure you look at the liens, other liens, because these can kill the deal, okay? So if the liens plus the outstanding balance is greater than the ARV of the property, you have no business in that property, okay? You've got to let it go, okay? You've got to have a spread. When you add the outstanding balance right here, plus the liens, and then you do the difference between the ARV and the liens, you've got to have a difference of at least $75,000 and up, okay? If you don't have at least $75,000, you're going to be very tight on the numbers. For whatever strategy you want to do, you're going to be very tight. And then obviously, if you want to do a wholesale, then it's just going to be a byproduct. It's going to be easy to do a wholesale deal if you make sure that you do a successful buy and hold and fix and flip analysis, okay? And obviously, make sure that you pull the comps right here, pull the comps, and then go on to the market overview and look at the pockets, right? Using the interactive map right here. Make sure you identify the location of the property, of the subject property up above. Make sure that you go down and identify that, because I've seen these, friends. It looks amazing right here, the numbers up here. But when I go down to the pockets, I found some properties that are just in the pocket that sells for very cheap. And just across the street, they sell for double, believe it or not. So then we just skip those properties. So I want to emphasize that you make sure you understand the pockets, because again, even if you drive by the neighborhood, you are not going to identify these type of price differences, right? Once you go over a street, the price drops from $649, $650 drops to $460. So it drops about $200,000. Believe it or not, $650 to $460. It's a price difference of $200,000, friends. Look at this, the orange and the yellow. So that is why please make sure you come to this market overview to plot the subject property, okay? Let me see, we have some questions on the line. When was the last time a member followed through and made good deal through? Oh, okay. So the question is, when was the last time one of our members got an awesome deal from upcoming auctions? So we have a couple of members that actually got the deal on the contract. They didn't do a buy and hold or fix and flip, but they did a wholesale. So one of our superstars is Russell Walker. He's a member of DealVault, and he happens to be a great wholesaler. So he's made one deal. I know he made $35,000. Another one he made $15,000 from, in fact, pre-foreclosures and upcoming auctions. So he was able to get in touch with the owner, get it on the contract, and then wholesale the property right away. So friends, we give you the great deals. All you need to do is spend, like we did, right? We did the analysis in less than 10 minutes. So we were able to find out the ARV. We were able to find out if it was listed on the MLS. We did a successful analysis for buy and hold and fix and flip. Not only that, well, we identified the pocket where that property sat on, right? Which is huge, friends. And then we also checked, when we saw the other property near the river, we made sure that it was not in a floodplain, because that can kill the deal. You've got to ignore properties in floodplain areas, okay? So remember to also use the power search. So Janice, thank you for bringing that up. So when you do the power search, what's gonna happen is, we're gonna show you all the information about the property. So when we did the power search on this Villa Park on a school, we found it in the upcoming auction, and also we found it in the MLS. So that is why Janice was able to tell us that it was contingent right here, right? It's on the contract. So make sure that you use the power search, okay? That is what we did it for, right? So to give you all the information that you have to know, because in this case, since we know it's on the contract, there's no point in trying to get a hold of the owner, okay? But at least you have all the information on the table for you to make a decision, okay? That is what we want to make sure that you do, your due diligence before taking action. Okay, friends, so again, thank you for joining tonight's webinar. Do you have any other questions? I'm gonna open up the line for questions. I'm gonna unmute everyone. Any questions, anyone? Okay, it's kind of loud, so you can send the questions via the chat. Any questions, anybody? Anybody else that we can answer on upcoming auctions? So friends, I just want to emphasize that upcoming auctions is one of the most important lead pipes that we have in the system. So please take advantage of it and start reaching out to owners on the upcoming auctions lead pipe, because they're gonna lose their home in 30 to 45 days. So they're gonna be extremely motivated to work with you. Okay, so there's another question on the line. Hard and private lenders need same amount of time to close? Yes. So hard money lenders, they need about 3 weeks. So in fact, we closed on a property today. We used a hard money lender and they took them 2.5 weeks to close, because let me tell you, they need at least, when they rush order an appraisal, it takes about 5 days for a rush order appraisal. And then the rest is just paperwork, right? Collecting paperwork, making sure they have the scope of work, make sure that they have all your ducks in a row. So it's going to take the fastest they can do it in 2.5 weeks. But I like to say 3 weeks for a hard money lender, and a private money lender is even quicker, because the private money lender might be somebody like you. We have few members in DealVault who are private money lenders, so they don't have these procedures in place, right? To be able to lend the money. So it's a lot quicker. A private money lender can just wire the funds, and all they need to do is have you sign the note, right? Which obviously is going to get recorded, and that puts a lien on your property. But private money lenders, you can close even a lot quicker, in about 2 weeks. So private money lenders are even quicker than hard money lenders. So great question, John. So Paresh has another question. How do I confirm the second lien is there on the website? So second liens are going to be right here on their other liens. So you're going to see all the liens. If there's a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, it's going to be right here. Any lien on that property is going to show right here on their other liens.
Hugo, recently I went through one of the deal. It wasn't showing any lanes on that, any other lanes, but it had two more lanes. When I put it under contract, and Gary figure out, oh, there are two more lanes. So is there any website to figure out and confirm that?
Okay, if somebody files a lien, it's going to take about 32, depending how quickly they record the lien. But when they do a title search, they want to make sure that you get free title, right? A clear and free title. So when they do a title search, that will for sure find all the possible liens. But these are liens that are already public, that have been recorded, that are showing right here. But there might be some new liens that are going to come up that only when you do a title search. So the title company will be able to find those, okay? But it's safe to go by these. You may run into some exceptions, Paresh, but it's safe to go by these, right? Okay. Because the major liens, like if it's a secondary mortgage, it's going to show for sure right here. Thank you, Paresh. That's a great question. Another question is from Mike. How do you make sure the title is clear? So that is done by the attorney, like Gary Davidson, who is going to use the title services from, let's say, Fidelity, National Fidelity. So Fidelity will do a title search, right? So that's going to guarantee that you get a guaranteed deed. So that indeed it's free and clear of any encumbrances or liens. So the title company, in combination with the attorney, make sure that you get a clear title. And then another question is, how do we do a step-by-step process on your training videos? Yeah, so we're going to send you the replay, and then we post the training videos, the masterminds, under the training, only for members, okay? So you're going to be able to do the replay or see them. Another question is either via the sheriff auction or the private offer. I do not understand that question, Mike. The sheriff auction or the private offer. I do not understand that question. Friends, hey, Mike, can you send us a message, or you can call us and then we can discuss that, because I don't fully understand the question. Friends, so thank you for joining tonight. So remember,
one more question.
Okay, go ahead, Paresh.
What is the difference between a sheriff sale and judicial sale?
Okay, so we're running out of time. That's a great question. 7:28. I've got to start another webinar. So I'm going to send in the replay, I'm going to include that answer for everyone, okay? Because I'm going to go in more detail. I need more than a couple of minutes to explain that. So the question, friends, is the difference between a sheriff auction
and judicial auction.
Yes. So I'm going to go in more details, but just in a nutshell, Paresh, there's no difference. It's the same thing. Okay? It's the same thing. Okay, so friends, thank you for joining tonight, and please start going after upcoming auctions, okay? So thank you for joining. We'll send the replay, and then please mark your calendar for March 17, okay? Sunday at 1 p.m. It's gonna be in Oak Brook at the Jory location. We're gonna do speed networking. We're gonna bring some private money lenders from ChicagoDealVault. Okay, friends, so thank you and have a great night.